welcome back everyone for a House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones, Song of Ice and Fire, whatever the hell watch party. Some big news dropped this week about another potential spin-off series. It would be a sequel series about Jon Snow. While initially it was just anonymous rumors from The Hollywood Reporter, it was later confirmed to be in development by former author George R.R. Martin. In his blog post, George said how the idea originally was from Kit Harington, and he approached them with his own team of writers and developers. That was over a year and a half ago. The show has been in development at HBO since then, and a pilot script has already been written. That's where it is now, and George points out that all the other Game of Thrones successor shows are also at that point. They have pilot scripts with a basic treatment for the whole series, and nothing else. That's also where it'll probably stay for at least a few months. Basically what's happening is HBO is waiting to see if House of the Dragon will be successful, and there's still an appetite for Westeros and Game of Thrones content. They have them ready to go and will greenlight them if they think there's money to be made, or I should say there's a big enough audience that wants to see them. It all depends on House of the Dragon. Here's a basic rundown of HBO's game plan and how the ratings and reception of House of the Dragon will play out. If the show is a flop, they'll cancel House of the Dragon and all the shows in development. It's over, it's done. If the show is moderately successful, they'll renew House of the Dragon for season 2, then wait and see. If the show is a hit in some way, or at least recaptures the momentum of the original Game of Thrones, they will likely greenlight one of these shows in development. If the show is a super hit and has people loving it all over again, and maybe getting a better reception and ratings than the last few Game of Thrones seasons, they certainly may greenlight multiple of these new shows. Further, if it's a super runaway hit and the biggest thing on television, they'll probably renew House of the Dragon, greenlight multiple of these shows, and there's also some cartoons they're developing for some reason. They may literally flood the zone with Westeros Game of Thrones content. But it all starts with House of the Dragon first having to get renewed for more seasons, and then how well the ratings and receptions are beyond that minimum determines how many more additional shows HBO orders. It could be several, it could be none. Everything hinges on how House of the Dragon connects with the audience. Now the question then becomes, if House of the Dragon does so well that HBO wants to greenlight another show, which one will it be? That brings us to the timing of this supposed leak. The leak about the Jon Snow show almost certainly came from Kit Harington's agent, or maybe whoever the showrunner is. Quite possibly they both leaked it, as then one source could confirm it for the other. Basically, their strategy is to build hype up for this new show in the run-up to House of the Dragon. So if and when that is a hit, and HBO is looking to greenlight something else, all the clamoring and excitement is for this new Jon Snow sequel show. Then they get the green light and everyone else gets the dust. It's a good strategy and very well may work. If the talk is how season 8 ended horribly and good writers could give Jon Snow a much better ending and people say this is how the story needs to be handled, I think HBO would go with the Jon Snow show. I'll also run through the other shows they have in development and why they could likely or likely not get the green light. The first one is The Sneeze Snake. This show would be about Corlys Velaryon and the 9 great voyages he made when he was young. Basically, it would be an adventure show on the high seas. He made 9 great voyages across the world and got tremendous wealth and power. The fate of the show almost certainly revolves around whether or not Corlys is a breakout, popular character in House of the Dragon. Now the thing about Corlys is George R.R. Martin wrote him as this larger-than-life sailor, but then he doesn't actually do much. If you read Fire and Blood, it'll go 30 pages or so and he's mentioned once in a paragraph. Then it'll go another 30 or 4 pages and he's mentioned once again. Basically anything he does in the show will be the invention of the writers. But then consider, how amazing can a sailor on a wooden ship be in a war with dragons? Corlys will likely be overshadowed by the other characters, and if they try to force him, it'll come off as fake. This show is certainly possible, but more than anything, it depends on how people react to Corlys and his reception in House of the Dragon. Now, the other possible show is 10,000 Ships. This would be set way in the past and is basically similar to the Snake show. It's about a sailor, a woman called Nymeria, who leads her people from their home because they have to get away. They eventually settle on the south of Westeros and are the founders of Dorne. Basically, HBO is thinking if people want seafaring action-adventure show, but don't like Corlys Velaryon, then they would have this show ready to go. But then no one cares about Dorne and how it got started. If you ever wondered who Arya named her direwolf after,
Nymeria?
Then this is the show for you. But since neither you nor anyone in the world ever wondered or cared who Nymeria actually was, this show has little chance. 10,000 Ships is probably the least likely to receive a green light. Now the final show in development is Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, or The Hedge Knight, or Dunk and Egg. This would be an adaptation of a series of short stories George R.R. Martin wrote about a knight named Duncan the Tall and his squire, a young boy named Egg. This would probably make the best spin-off show. It has a lot of potential of having a Mandalorian feel, except instead of a bounty hunter and Baby Yoda, it's a traveling knight and his squire. The biggest obstacle is Martin had like 6 or 7 of these stories planned, and he's only written 3. This means the show can end up in the same spot the original Game of Thrones series was in. Basically, it starts by adapting his material, and then eventually surpasses it and has to make it up. Now, George R.R. Martin could come out of retirement to finish these stories, but that seems unlikely because people would expect him to finish Winds of Winter first. Still, the stories are interesting and unique and have a lot of potential. They do tie into the main storyline at least somewhat. I think this one has the second most potential of getting the green light. The fact that it is unfinished is the biggest handicap. So then the most likely show is Snow, the sequel show about Jon Snow. The fact that he is an established character and the fact that so many fans feel his ending sucked puts a strong likelihood that if anything gets the green light, it's this. The hype machine, orchestrated by Kit Harington's team, is working in that regard. What will the show be about? Who knows? I tend to think it will be an attempt to redo the White Walkers storyline. Maybe the Walkers aren't completely dead. Maybe the Night King had a Night Queen bride or something stupid. I don't know. But Arya killing the Night King subverted expectations that brought a brief flare of excitement, followed by years and years of emptiness and regret. What was the point of the entire thing? What was the point of Jon Snow's storyline? This sequel show could address some of that. Now, there's all sorts of other speculation, such as Daenerys will be resurrected for some reason, and they could redo the end of her storyline. I don't think that's the case. I don't think they are intending to just redo the entire end of Game of Thrones in a better way. That would be a little too obvious, and it would make the whole thing feel a little weird. I can see Bran the Broken coming up as he is king, and obviously Sansa is Queen of the North, and you have Arya off sailing who knows where. So sure, the characters who are still alive could come up somehow, but making the show a complete redo of Season 8 is a bad idea. And apparently there's another part of the world where there are White Walkers, but they're in a desert and not the snow. It's like the reverse, Sand Walkers or something. The idea would be Jon Snow covers these people. I think this runs into the same problem other shows have. You have a main character people know going to a different place with different people. It wouldn't be as enticing. There would be a strong feel of, we've done this already. Plus, since George R.R. Martin confirmed the idea came from Kit Harington, it seems far less likely to involve some other parts of the world Kit doesn't know. That is the biggest clue. Since this whole show was Kit's idea, it's far more likely about Jon Snow working with the wildlings north of the Wall and maybe dealing with the White Walkers again. Then he has to do some travel around the Seven Kingdoms for cameos, but it would get back to the root of Jon Snow's story. That is ultimately what Kit Harington would be thinking about, Jon Snow's story and how to properly end that. So are you interested in any of these potential spin-offs? Leave a comment and let me know. Also, please like the video. I'm new to House of the Dragon Game of Thrones stuff, and YouTube really looks at those metrics to determine how well a video is put out. Be sure you're subscribed, as I will be covering both House of the Dragon and Cobra Kai late summer and fall. It's going to be a whirlwind for both. Have a great day. I'll see you at the next watch party.